Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ready Chapter 1. We are so glad to have you here. I'm going to go while we're getting everybody set. We are so happy to have you for our Logline workshop. Please go ahead, take a sec. Let us know in the comments who you are, where you're from, what you write. Just kind of helps us to know what you're working on with all this sort of stuff. So yes, take a sec. Let us know where you're from, and then we're going to get to jumping right in. I am going to go ahead and right now throw in a link. Actually, I'm going to wait till we have a few more people join and add a link to a worksheet that you can use for this. All right. All right, Southern California. Debbie, I'm wondering how warm you guys are there compared to us. We're baking here a little bit in Florida, so we'll see. Just a sec. And I am going to add to, Nebraska, Northern California. I'm a fan. I'm not going to lie. I'm jealous of all of the folks who are coming from cooler places. All right. I have Fred joining us as well. So I'm going to let him come on in. He's the best person I know for giving feedback to Logline. So he will be here for that. And I'm going to go ahead and add him now. Hey, Fred, good to have you. Okay.
Hello.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, folks, I'm going to go ahead and sort of jump in. So, really quickly, our goal as we are moving through all of this is to move pretty quickly through different things that we can do. And now that we've got a few more folks in, I'm going to post this a few times, but this is a worksheet that you can use. I've posted it in the comments. It's a worksheet that you can use for what we're doing. We'll email it to y'all after this. You don't need the worksheet, but if you want it, you're more than welcome to use it. Okay, Becky, you have us beat. 103? Nope. 95, we're flirting with that, Debbie, but we're okay. All right. So folks, let's go ahead. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to really quickly talk about characteristics of great log lines. We are going to help you pick the building blocks for your own log line because in my mind, that is one of the most crucial aspects of it. We're going to let you experiment with different logline formulas while you're doing that. So it's not like we're going to stop and give you 5 minutes to work on your log lines, but while you're working on your own log lines, we're going to give you different examples to sort of see how that works in different types of stories, in different types of genres. And then brave souls will be able to get feedback on their own log lines in this. And don't forget about the giveaway at the end. So at the very end, we will have a giveaway for one of our RC1 Pro memberships. So one of the cool things about that is like our Pro members are able to participate in all of our agent challenges where folks swap feedback and then end up getting our finalists will be able to send their first 10 pages to an agent for feedback. And we have one of those starting next week with agent Sarah Rivers. Hello, Ms. Troyable. So our person who wins will be able to do that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Let's jump right in. Okay, so a couple things about standout log lines. And we're doing this because you want to be able to talk about your story. It's important that you be able to have an answer, unlike me when somebody asks you what you're working on. It is the thing that will anchor the first part of your query letter. And here's what's going to make a log line good. So one of the things that's important is that your log line will be specific. A thriller log line can sound like any other sort of thriller log line. And so you want to make sure that you include details that stand out and that are specific to your own genre. So specific details and that are unique within your genre. So if you're thinking of your book on a shelf with all of the other mysteries or romances or fantasies, what aspect of your book will be different even within that same genre? And then we want a logline that is unexpected. So I don't know about you, but I don't read when I get to a point where I feel like I know exactly what's going to happen in a novel. At that point, it's not interesting. And so your logline needs to be the same thing. There needs to be something unexpected, exciting about your logline that make people think, oh, I haven't seen that before. And one of the best tools that you can use for that is juxtaposition. That's a huge thing that we have here at Ready Chapter One. Fred has some amazing material on it, but juxtaposition simply means that you're taking two things that don't belong together and you're putting them together in a way that invites curiosity and makes people want to know more. And goodness, juxtaposition is a perfect tool for your logline because it's something that can be done in small spaces. It's not like you need 3 paragraphs for juxtaposition to work. Or put another way, here's what's going to make your logline stand out. You want a logline that uses specific details that are unique within the genre, and you're going to juxtapose those details in unexpected ways to help you sell your story. Whether you are trying to get somebody to read the book, whether you're wanting an agent or an editor to bite. Okay, so what we're going to do right now, if you have your logline, if you have the worksheets, great. If you just have a piece of paper that you want to grab to sort of jot some things down, or if you want to open up a document, go ahead and do that. But to me, choosing your logline building blocks are going to be crucial. So we have logline generators on multiple websites now, where you just sort of plug these things in and it'll kind of put together a logline for you. But as somebody who's dealt with construction recently, your house is only as good as the material that you use, and your logline is only going to be as good as the building blocks that you choose. So we're going to go through some of the basic building blocks of a logline, emphasize things that will help you choose things that work, and then as you're sort of putting them together in the formulas, which we'll provide, we're going to go over loglines that are super helpful. So main character. This is not surprising. There was a fabulous analysis of loglines, of hundreds of movie loglines, and the thing that shows up in just about every single logline is the main character. So, a couple things about this. You will rarely need to use the name of your main character, but you will often need to use a few simple descriptors like teacher, teen, single mom. Also think about what sort of adjectives that you could use that again would begin to make them start standing out. So if you're writing romance and you imagine a shelf of romance books and every single main character from those romance books comes out and starts, I don't know, sipping wine coolers or something like that, what is going to make your main character stand out from all of those other main characters of a romance? What will make your lead detective different from all of the other lead detectives in a thriller or in a mystery? So home in on those sorts of things that are unique about your main character. And the lovely tension of a logline is that you're having to do that in a really short space. Okay, inciting incident events. Inciting incident, in the slides I used inciting event, but what set everything in motion? How did your character get into this trouble in the first place? And as you're doing this, take a sec and think about are there any details that distinguish your character's inciting event from others? So, for instance, a lot of books begin with murders. There are even a decent amount of stories. Oh my goodness, I was watching a Father Brown and somebody dies and they leave a clue that's written in their own blood. Well, Da Vinci Code starts with a murder, and the victim of that murder is a museum curator, and he does write something in his own blood, but it's not just a human clue, it's a puzzle, and it sets the tone for the whole story. So, are there details about your inciting event that you can sort of add that will make your inciting event stand out? And then action. So action, I'm not talking about like a long list of actions, but what I am talking about is typically this is one word, two word sort of verbs that's going to connect what your main character is doing. So for instance, you could have people band together or infiltrate the mob to pursue their goals. So for instance, a group of misfits band together to travel to California in 48 hours. So you may not use all of these again, but sometimes action will be a good thing. And Fred, if anything pops to your mind, please feel free to let me know. I know I'm scooting through fast. Okay, cool. This is what we want to have happen. So this is what, and Jamie, I see your question. I'll get to that in just a sec because I like it very much. So goal is, what do we need to have happen? What are these people shooting for? What is their goal that they need to achieve? And again, if there's any way that you can make that specific, any way, honestly, that you can make that personal, that is super important. Another thing is antagonist or opposing force. So I would say for a decent amount of stories, we have an antagonist, like a villain. That villain could be a corporation, it could be a person, but sometimes we have an antagonist that is actually nature. So you have like The Martian, where somebody is stranded on Mars. Fred's been working on a book where this is the story of a young man against nature as well. So your antagonist isn't always going to be a person, but you are going to have something that your main character is pushing against. And that's what we're keeping in mind here. Last one. And then we're talking about stakes. So what's at stake if everything falls apart? And sometimes I've seen loglines where they include the stakes and it's really powerful. We'll have some examples of that. There are other loglines where if you include the stakes, it's going to sound incredibly redundant. So go ahead and write your stakes down to the extent, again, you can make it personal. That is fabulous. If you can include specific details, that's great. But know that you may not need to use all of these. And then I'm going to get to Jamie's question real quick. So Jamie's asking, is there any way to describe 2 plot lines in one log line? I have 2 options, one with one, another with both. Jamie, I like that question. I think you have a lot of options with that, and I really look forward to seeing that and kind of seeing what you're thinking would be best. And I'm honestly really looking forward to seeing what Fred has to say about it. So maybe you could post both of them when we get to the point where we're submitting the log lines, and you could let us know.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll jump in there if I can. Yeah. So I would just say, generally speaking, with your logline, you want to describe the big main conflict in the story. And if that covers 2 different plot lines kind of revolve around that big main conflict, then that, like, you're going to be in good shape. But typically, you take any sort of modern day thriller or any sort of modern day book, and it's gonna have one big overarching problem that needs to be solved. So I think we'll probably look at the Jurassic Park logline in this, just because it's a classic. But the big main problem that needs to be solved isn't necessarily the fact that dinosaurs were brought back to life and put on this island, but it's the fact that this particular set of characters is stuck on this particular island with this particular time ticking clock for them to get rescued before the dinosaurs eat everyone. So I feel like if you can sum up your story in like that succinctly, then you're going to be in really good shape.
Love it. Love it. All right. So folks, this is also included. I'm going to give you 3 logline formulas. And again, these are the sorts of things that you'll see in online logline generators. And these are also in the worksheet that you have up here. So if you go to the comment from Ready Chapter 1, that'll take you straight to that worksheet. So I'm going to put these log lines here. This one to me is the kitchen sink. I mean, this literally includes all 6 of those sorts of building blocks of a log line. I don't know about you, Fred. I don't think I've found too many log lines that include all 6 aspects, but sometimes it's a helpful starting point to just sort of see, okay, what sounds good, what doesn't sound good. And so this is kitchen sink. This is a great starting point. And then we have 2 more logline formulas. And again, these are all on the worksheet. Formula 2 strikes me as more plot driven. So it is centered around the plot. So when the inciting incidents, the protagonist must action against the antagonist. And then our third formula, second on this page, is more character driven. So this is talking about what's going on with the character. So the protagonist must action antagonist to meet this goal on or before stakes. So again, these are starting points. And what we're hoping right now is that you kind of take these and start playing with them a little bit to see what works for you. And then I'm going to start going through some examples of log lines. And Fred, I cheated. I switched out Jurassic Park with Hunger Games, but I think it does kind of give the same example of what we're doing. So speaking of which, we have Hunger Games. So set in a future where the capital, which is our antagonist, selects children from each district to fight to the death on live television. A teen takes her younger sister's place in the latest match. So you'll see this only has 3 of those elements. But I want to kind of draw our attention back really quickly, and I'm going to move fast with what's specific, what's unique, and what's unexpected. So one of the things I like about this is that this is very specific. So we're not just talking about an oppressive government. We're talking about a government that takes children and puts them in a televised death match. So that works so much better than just, yes, this is an oppressive government. Unexpected, this is amazing juxtaposition. We, until the Hunger Games, had not thought about children in death matches. What you will notice is missing here is that the goals and stakes are implied. So this would have been really stupid to say, she takes her younger sister's place in the latest match where she hopes to not die or where she wants to survive. So we don't need to state that her goal is to live or that her, the stakes are that she dies if she fails. And I don't know if this goes to what you're talking about, Jamie, but I think this kind of goes with what Fred was saying as well. In Hunger Games, there are multiple goals. So like by the end of Hunger Games, Katniss is really wanting to sort of overthrow or at least deny the Capitol control over her life. So her goal becomes a sort of moving target, but the job of the logline is to concentrate on that sort of initial goal, that overarching goal that Fred was talking about. And this is the one that we start with. And this is the one that makes sense for a logline.
Yeah, and if I can jump in here real
Yeah.
quick, Jamie, another thing that we might be like that might really be helpful for you is to think about what is that unexpected juxtaposition for your story,
Mm.
because in Jurassic Park, it's uh, kids and live dinosaurs who are eating everyone, right? Those two things don't typically go together. But because Michael Crichton, was able to come up with that really clever framing for how he's going to put kids in the same island stuck with live dinosaurs who eat everyone, like that creates that like, oh, I need to know what's going on here. Same thing in Hunger Games. Like we have children, children. Like we need nothing more than children. And death match on live television. Again, like we've never heard that before. And so when you put you juxtapose those two concepts next to each other, now all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, I have to know more. And if you can get that agent or that editor that you're trying to attract to your story to have that reaction to your logline, if that's literally like the opening sentence of your query letter, or if you meet them on an elevator at a conference and they ask you what you're working on and you can deliver it that succinctly, that's how you kind of turn that general interaction into a request for your manuscript. Because if they get that, oh, I've never heard that before, their very next line to you is going to be, you need to send it to me. And when you hear that from an agent or an editor, you need to send it to me, then you win. You win the publishing sweepstakes.
Amen. All right. So, folks, I have next, again, trying to pull from all sorts of different genres. This is women's fiction. It's comedy. It's fabulous. This is Finley Donovan is killing it. A single mother, this is our main character, is mistaken for a contract killer and inadvertently accepts an offer to off a problem husband, which is our inciting event to make ends meet. Okay, so again, we're dealing with specifics. In my mind, even just adding the point about offing a problem husband, this would be I wouldn't care about this story if the person that she has been asked to kill is, a pillar of the community. But the fact is, she needs the money, and this is a bad guy anyway. Then you can sort of feel your moral bearings begin to slide a little bit. And so to me, this works in this way. Other thing about this is that the tone of this is funny. And this is that sort of juxtaposition that Fred was talking about. Like as you're looking at your details and figuring which building blocks to use, you're looking for the ones that fit together. And a single mother who's unexpectedly saddled with, asking, to knock someone off, that they're playing that for laughs and it works. And even though this only in this case has about 2 elements or 2 building blocks, for me, I want to read more. Fred, what do you say?
Yeah, I got very little to add to that.
Okay.
It's great juxtaposition, single mom, mistaken for a contract killer. Like, again, if I'm calling my agent or I'm talking to my editor and that's like, hey, do you want a book about a single mom who's mistaken for a contract killer? Then they're going to say, send it to me.
Yeah.
And so like, if you can, like, again, just like dial in, take what you can from each of these and build your own version of it. And this is going to push you so much closer to your goal in the publishing industry.
Yes, 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 yes. Okay, so per someone's request, I went ahead and threw in a couple specifically fantasy and sci-fi. One of the main reasons for this is that I feel like fantasy and sci-fi authors struggle with there's a whole lot of background information that needs to be expressed for the story to be understood. So you're having to do a little bit more explaining. How do you condense that into a log line? And I think the answer is figuring out that one aspect. You've done all this world building, you've set up magic systems or scientific systems, but you're going to be focusing on one or two very key aspects of that to mention in your log line. Another thing is, and you'll see this in both of these, we're going to do the spell shop and then fourth wing after this. You're also going for tone. So this is a cozy fantasy, which means there's going to be tension, but nothing that's going to like really worry you about the main character. So after fleeing a revolution, a librarian and her sentient spider plant find refuge on a remote island where she uses the books she saved to offer magical assistance under the guise of a jam business. Okay. So I don't think I would ever in a logline include a secondary character unless it was a sentient spider plant. And to me, that sets the tone for like so much of what's going on. This is a funny, quirky movie. We're dealing with spells that are happening in a jam shop. So you've got the juxtaposition of a revolution and a jam shop. You also have this very interesting thing of, you'll notice that we don't have an antagonist in this, but we do have hints of an issue. So we know that they're fleeing a revolution. We know that they're seeking refuge. So that implies that they're still worried about their safety. But in true cozy fashion, this is focusing kind of on the life that's being developed. And so again, we have hints of spells, we have hints of magic. Of course, we have a secondary talking plant character, but there's not a whole lot of development of this world. And there's some really cool things in this world. So to me, this is a good example of a fantasy logline that is doing what it needs to do.
Yeah, and the specificity here is great. I mean, you know, from the sentient spider plant to, you know, the jam business, like those, if you are building your story, if you're building your concept with these kind of unexpected and interesting elements, that's what you want. You know, whatever makes your story the most weird, whatever makes it the most quirky or unexpected, those are the elements that when you mention them in your logline, it's going to go over that much better.
Yes, absolutely. Two questions. One I think I really like here. So Catherine J, you were talking about in romance where both characters are important. Would you include them both in the logline? Absolutely. I think in romance, actually, so for folks who are not familiar with romance, a book is literally not considered romance unless we have a happily ever after or we have two characters ending up with each other, at least for that time. So in romance, this a logline about romance may be less about stakes or what the goal is. The goal is that these two people find each other. So a romance logline might spend more time emphasizing the two characters and how they're getting to this end point. But yes, I would definitely include both characters in a romance.
Yeah, and how you juxtapose them is also going to be really, really important. So, you
Absolutely.
know, because if you know if it's the high school quarterback and the cheerleading, you know, the captain of the cheerleading team, like that's the relationship everybody expects. But when you can juxtapose, oh, this person versus, oh, wait, they should never end
Mhm.
up together. If you can make somebody say, you know, think that, and then you can kind of cleverly weave how it's going to happen, like that's that curious, unexpected way that's going to help you pitch those two characters.
Agreed. Agreed. And then we also have Wendy asking about how we incorporate a unique setting. And I think, Wendy, that's going to go back to something very specific, and you may only be mentioning the setting as how it applies to plot. So again, I read the spell shop. They have flocks of mer horses. So the guy that the librarian ends up with is a shepherd for this. That's a fabulous sort of and there's a magic system that has this sort of hierarchy around spells. They didn't have space for that, but by mentioning spells and by mentioning even this sentient spider plant, you're getting a hint at the world. So I would see if there is one part of the setting that directly affects the plot and mention that. You're hinting at this, you're not wanting to have to tell them the whole thing. Your goal is that somebody hear the log line and want to hear more, and then you get to be like, oh, let me tell you about this. So
Yeah,
I'm going to
and
move
if
this.
I can,
Oh yeah.
I was just going to say, well, shoot, what was I going to say, Sarah? I had
Fred,
a
I do
really,
not
really
know.
good thought to add to that. Oh yeah, it's the idea of you can like always start with in a world where.
Yes.
Most fantasy and most sci-fi has like one specific magical element that is different from the world we know. So in a world where only frogs, all frogs are magic. Okay, I just made that up. In a world where all frogs are magic, character blah 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 must do blah 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 in order to
Yes.
blah blah blah. Like
In a
you
galaxy far,
can
far
build
away.
that. What I wouldn't do is in a world where all frogs are magic and the only way to get your greatest wish to come true is to find the perfect one and kiss it and blah etc. So just find that one weird little unique element that can represent the full
Yes.
specialness of your world and mention that, and that should be just enough hint of where the story's going.
Love it. All right. Different kind of fantasy. This is Fourth Wing. So this was the romantasy that took the world by storm. It's been on bestseller lists. So forced to abandon a life as a scribe, Violet must join a brutal dragon rider academy where survival depends on outwitting fellow cadets, bonding with a dragon, and navigating deadly intrigue as war looms. Okay, so juxtaposition that we have here, we have a scribe who is being dropped into a brutal dragon rider school, and they're going out of their way in this log line, which I think is fabulous. This is not How to Train Your Dragon. So we are not going to see Hiccup kind of bumbling around in this. We're getting the idea that even though we have seen stories about dragon riders before, this is going to be different in this whole setting. So they go out of their way to juxtapose a scribe against this very brutal background. And again, this is a massive world. Like this book is so thick, and they literally concentrated on the most important parts where you're needing to bound with a dragon, and we're just not sure you're going to survive this whole thing.
Yeah, I don't think they did justice to this log line. I mean, because
Mm,
I've read Fourth Wing, and
yeah,
it's way worse and way more intense. It's like I feel like they flubbed this.
yep,
I mean, clearly the book still sold. So
right.
the log line isn't everything. The writing was still superb.
Well, and I think too, like if you look at the longer, like the blurb, so if you're looking at like the 4 sentences, it's fabulous. I think there was just so much to fit in. So, yeah. All right. Moving along. Little sci-fi here. This is The Martian, and this I'm including because this does not have a clearly defined antagonist. So, after a deadly storm leaves him stranded on Mars, an astronaut must use his ingenuity to survive an unforgiving environment long enough to let Earth know he's alive and await rescue. Um, so here we have inciting incident. We have our astronauts. And all of the sorts of things using his ingenuity, which is his action. And we are setting up this environment of Mars that he is having to survive against. So we don't have anybody out to get him. We just know that we have an entire planet that simply existing is enough to kill him. Fred, anything you want to add?
No, this was a really, really good one.
Yeah.
I liked this book a lot. This was, yeah.
Yes.
Yes, the environment is the antagonist. Yeah, and that's yeah. I personally am a huge fan of books where the environment is the antagonist.
Yep.
But
Yep.
that's all I have to add to that.
Okay. Just wanted to check. I mean, you're writing a book that has the
Yeah.
environment as an antagonist. Okay, Silence of the Lambs. I love this logline so much. So, a young FBI cadet must confide in an incarcerated and manipulative killer to receive his help on catching another serial killer who skins his victims. Okay, let's talk about why this works. We have amazing specificity in the word choice. Cadet implies somebody who is new, who does not have experience. Confide implies vulnerability, and vulnerability to a serial killer. And if I go back to our logline from the Hunger Games didn't list stakes. But in forewords here, who skins his victims, we have added so much to the stakes. So to me, this is a masterclass. And you'll notice we also have two antagonists. Fred, anything you want to add with that?
Yeah, no, I mean, again, the specificity, like you said, this is good, and juxtaposition, right? You've got
Yes.
your cadet versus manipulative killer.
Mm-hmm.
And when we had talked earlier about romance and how you need to be able to juxtapose these two characters who just don't seem like anything would work when you put them together. This is that same clearly not a romantic one, but this is that same formula. It's how do these two characters, when you read it, all you can think of is how is that cadet going to accomplish anything? How are they not going to end up the next victim? So if your logline starts making those questions come to the surface for the person who's hearing it, again, that's like you've done your job well.
Agreed. And I think this also is an example of why most of us have to go over our log lines again and again and again, because you may not be landing on those phrases and those words the first time. And so, yeah, this is why we do this. Okay, razor blade tears. So when their married sons are murdered, two ex-con fathers, one black and one white, band together to seek vengeance, determined to do better for their sons in death than they did in life. Okay, so again, love the specificity here. We have married sons, and this is set in the South. This wasn't in the logline, so you understand that there's going to be a kind of fraught situation with that. Ex-con is important here. If we have two accountants teaming up for vengeance, that may be very different from two ex-cons. We understand that probably these men, once they decide on vengeance, will be able to back it up. And then to me, this is, again, a fabulous example of when it helps to mention the stakes. So determined to do better for their sons in death than they did in life. That's a lot of words, but to me, it says so much. And I'm expecting violence. I'm expecting grit, but I'm also expecting a level of emotional introspection in this because those stakes were added.
Yeah. And I mean, as a dad, like when I read that, like determined to do better for their sons in death than they did in life, I'm like, I mean, my heart drops because I'm like, oh, it took their sons dying to realize that they needed to change as humans. And the change that they've decided to make includes like vengeance at a ex-con level. Like I am here for this story.
Absolutely. All right. So, folks, here is what we were going to do. On previous logline workshops, we had asked you to go to a separate link. But what we're going to ask you to do here is go ahead, take your logline, and please paste it into the comments there. And we'll kind of go through this. Will help us format it. I think last time we were doing this, we had a lot of trouble sort of navigating this. So I'm wanting to keep this a little bit simpler. So go ahead. If you have log lines that you are ready for feedback, go ahead and paste them in, post them as comments. If you have questions in the meantime, go ahead and hit us up. John, yes, go ahead. I would say, can you please put them in two separate comments and we'll bounce back and forth between them. And I apologize, Catherine J. I thought I had a romance one in there and I did not. Actually, I had a really good romance one and that slide did not make it. So I apologize. But we should be able to do that. And then, so And I'm going to lean heavily on Fred because I feel like his feedback on some of these log lines will be the best. I'll sort of chime in on this. And then we'll do this for about 15, 20 minutes. And then we will move towards a drawing. So anybody have any comments that they would like? And again, you could just post them straight here in the comments.
Well, and while we're waiting, folks may want to use that worksheet. Folks may want to
Yes.
see the formulas again, if that's at all possible.
I think I
Um,
can do that.
but yeah, I can tell. I'll tell a quick story. Just the more that we have gotten into sort of this community building for writers, we've started talking to so many more publishers, so many more agents. So we are now having these daily and weekly interactions with the gatekeepers that you guys are trying to get in front of and that you're trying to impress. And literally, like when a publisher will come to me and say, "Hey, Fred, do you have any writers who are doing blah?" They'll almost like pitch me back a log line, like I'm looking for something like blah, and
Yes.
then they'll describe what makes that story special. So when we see our writers who are using our platform and they're posting their work and they're able to speak about and pitch their stories in this way, like it just makes it so much easier for us to talk to these publishers and these agents about who's in our community and who's doing like awesome work. So
Agreed.
I think that covered just enough time for us to get a few of
We
these log
did.
lines in.
All right.
Okay.
So I think I've got this across the bottom of the page.
Nice.
All right. I'm going to let you read it and take off, and I'll jump in.
Okay. A sheltered teenage boy must rally a group of strangers against a corrupt king with bigoted politics before everyone he loves is forced into lifelong servitude. All right. I think, yeah, this one has done, Jessica, thank you for being brave, first of all. And you've given us the start of a solid juxtaposition. So you're sheltered teenage boy, right? Against a corrupt king. So there's a huge power imbalance there. So this feels like a David and Goliath kind of story from the start, which is a good thing. But here's one comment that I would have is that the sheltered teenage boy and rallying a group of strangers didn't give me any I didn't understand the world we were in until you said king. Okay, so now I'm like, okay, so it's a king. Does this make it medieval? Does this make it? Is it modern, kind of dystopian, where in a future where now where every place is run by kings? But then the stakes are there. Before everyone he loves is forced into a lifelong servitude. And what I remember from our last Logline webinar is that I kept going back to the word specificity. So what's going to make this jump out so much more is when you pick those one or two details from your world, from your character, about this king. Again, a corrupt king with bigoted politics is not quite as interesting as a corrupt king who keeps heads on pikes outside his throne, or something like that. Like those, give us a little bit more detail in some of these story elements, and it's going to shine through that much better.
Agreed. That to me is what, like the Hunger Games log line, where this wasn't a corrupt government. This was a government that takes children and puts them in death matches. So if you can do the same thing with bigoted politics, a corrupt king, I think that will it'll add clarity to the world and also just ramp those stakes up. Okay, I've got John. This one was split between two, so I'm going to read the first part but post the second part. Okay, so a female professor mocked for her preposterous research, and then you can take it from there. Leads
a delusional homeless veteran and a priest who loves topless bars on a rollicking cross-country quest to discover an unusual relic that will change their lives. Okay, I got solid voice out of this. I mean, this is this is funny. This is Oh gosh, this is my mother would not read this. She would be mad at me for reading this, because I'm getting the sacrilege in it.
Mhm.
Although I'm assuming it's satire. But you've described your characters extremely well in this, and in your description and the way that you've described them, it makes me super intrigued by your concept. So I think you've started off with a bang. You've done a really really great job.
Mm.
Um, I feel like delusional homeless veteran. I think I understood him less than the other two characters, but I do love the rollicking cross country quest. Um, and then your unusual relic that will change their lives. I I dare you to try it with the specificity. What is the
Mhm.
relic? How is it going to change their lives? To discover a uh, 19th or a 10th century hot dog that the whoever eats it will gain in eternal life. Like, I don't know, but if you include that specificity there, and it's just as funny as everything else you wrote, I think you elevate this from an 8 to a 10.
Mm. And my guess is you could maybe even do specificity in only one of them. So, like, if the relic is really cool, like if you tell me this is a 10th century hot dog that's going to change their lives, I'm here for it. Or if you have how a relic that and very specific about how it'll change their lives, I'm good with that too. Okay, next up.
Right. A mortal woman with a cosplay sword must ally with an alluring monster king to stop a demigod from stealing the sun's light. Bum bum bum. All right, this has a lot of my favorite fantasy elements in it.
Mhm.
So, I'm a sci-fi and fantasy nerd, and this absolutely hits like all of kind of checks all the boxes for me in terms of a story that I would want to pick up and read. So the fact that we have a mortal woman with a cosplay sword, that's a great context clue. So when you said cosplay sword, I know that we must be in a at least somewhat modern setting.
Mhm.
Um, and then uh, and then this allying with an alluring monster king, that's where we're really kind of diving further into fantasy. So the only
Right.
thing that really tells me that this is kind of set in some sort of modern setting is the word cosplay. So I'm curious as to is this like a moving from one world into another? Is it all going to happen in this modern world? Because and maybe there's just one way that there's a quick way you can do that, um, to stop a demigod from stealing the sun's light, and you could say what the consequence of that stolen light and ending life on earth as we know it, or um, I'm not sure exactly what that stakes are, but you can pull that if you add that little element at the end, you can pull us back into with a little bit more detail about the world that we're in. But this is a solid pitch.
Yep. All right, next up.
All right. A frustrated actor sabotages the auditions to win the lead in a play about Dracula until he faces the real Dracula vying for the same part. Bum bum bum. Okay, this one is solid too.
Mhm.
This one gave me the like, I heard the cha-ching, I was like, "Yep,
Uh-huh.
I can see how a publisher would be interested in that. I can see how
Mhm.
an agent would be interested in that." Um yeah, so maybe the frustrated actor maybe feels a little like stereotypical. If you can hit us with something about this a frustrated actor who, give us just enough detail about him so that we know what makes him intriguing or interesting. A frustrated actor with a fear of garlic, or like, I don't know, like somehow show us how he's going to be the least likely person to win an argument or some sort of face off with the real Dracula.
Mhm.
And then through your brilliant writing, you're going to show us exactly how he does that. But this has got all the hallmarks of
Yeah.
a really, really solid pitch.
And this felt to me like it was going to be a funny book.
Yes.
So, and I'm assuming that it is, but if it, I don't know, if you were going for drama, you might need to change. But yeah, I got to the end and wanted to laugh, like in a good way. All right, next up.
Okay. When a boy disappears from his bed in the middle of the night, the residents of his small town must face their nightmares in order to rescue the boy from a mysterious woman who can manipulate dreams. Again, I got the bum 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 out of this one. So, yeah, I think specificity. Oh boy,
Mhm.
I'm gonna harp on this a little
You
bit, but
are.
um, all we get about the boy is he's a boy. And when you start with that, when you start with when a boy disappears from his bed in the middle of the night, I think that's the main character. And but then that character is gone. The residents of the small town must face their nightmares to rescue him, which that is a great, like, that's a really nice turn of phrase there. The
Mhm.
residents facing their nightmares to rescue him. But I want to see. I feel like there needs to be someone taking the lead in this story, and I feel like that's what maybe I'm missing
Mm.
is it a lead townsperson who is kind of leading the charge? Is it the boy calling out to them from where he's captured from, or is the are we looking at this through the eyes of the mysterious woman? So I think character can be strengthened in this, but the rest of the details are there.
Absolutely. It reminds me a little bit of like a log line I saw for Jaws, where, you have a shark terrorizing an entire town, but it's these three people who lead the charge against it. And agreed. All right. Um, okay. Next up, here we go.
All right. When a death in a rock star's home brings a rookie LAPD detective to investigate, he must choose if his former teen idol, now the person of interest in the death, should be arrested or protected. Ooh, okay.
Hmm.
This has got that same sort of power imbalance of that we saw in Silence of the Lambs. So it's like
Yeah.
you know, you got this person who is fascinated with their teen idol, and now all of a sudden they see them as a potential suspect, and so you've got this whole like, heart versus duty sort of play. That like it's solid juxtaposition between those characters. Um, and yeah, I feel like it's really close. I think I want one more element, and I don't know if it's the stakes, because once somebody's dead, then the stakes is really just justice. Did the bad guy get what they deserve or not?
Hmm.
But I wonder, like, I mean, if this person killed once, could they be? Are they going to kill again? Um, or like, what's the sinister sort of underlying undercurrent, that the ripple effects, really, what are the ripple effects of this person not being caught? And if you can hit us with that, I feel like it'll take this it'll take this up two levels.
I was a little curious too, and this might be more a tone thing, but in this, I can't tell if this is like straight up justice or if maybe you have somebody or something that gets a little twisty and that maybe an unreliable main character who is in over their head. So I'm not sure if this is like, you know, straight and true sort of person who's trying to make the right call, or if this is somebody who's in over their head and maybe sort of morally compromised trying to navigate things too. And so that may be something you don't want to address, or it may be something that word choice can sort of clear up as well, because that is tone a sort of tone thing as well. All right, next one.
Okay. A lightning strike reignites a capable weather predictor's childhood nightmares, sending her on a journey of self-discovery. Unaware, the truth has the power to destroy everything she holds dear. Ooh, okay. This has got some intriguing elements. So I love how you started with the inciting incident.
Mhm.
So lightning strike. I mean, what what an inciting incident, right? We start with a strike of lightning, um, and it reignites this capable weather predictor's childhood nightmares. That felt like a mouthful when I read
Mhm.
it, and I think you might have even heard me stumble on that. So maybe think about just a way to tighten that up a little bit. um, but sends her on a journey of self discovery, that might lack a little bit of the specificity that's going to make this super duper intriguing. Because I, from reading it, I feel like there's a really, really great, strong, awesome, fun
Agreed.
story here. But it's that maybe it's that juxtaposition that we're looking for. So, what was in her childhood nightmares? Um, uh, what how does that truth have the power to destroy everything she holds dear? Like those feel like kind of general, descriptions. And the more specific you can get with the just those two elements, I think you'll elevate this a lot.
I was also, and I don't know if this was just me, also a little unsure of the tone. Like when you talk about reignites her nightmares, I wasn't sure if that was like a fantasy element, kind of like the one with the kids in a town facing their nightmares, or if this is like her revisiting childhood trauma. So I think you might be able to clarify that as well, and that might help. Okay, I am John. I'm not ignoring you, but I'm going to skip you so we can get to some others since we've done that your first one already, and we'll swing back around. Here is our next one.
All right. A 19-year-old girl abandons a privileged life to escape her father's control, unaware of the legal and societal roadblocks she'll face in Jazz Age New York City, or the dangers.
Hmm.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a 17-year-old about to be 18-year-old daughter, and like when I read this, I'm like, oh gosh,
Mhm.
like no. But I hope I'm not like her, like this character's dad. But yeah, I think you've done you've done a good job of describing kind of the tone of the story. Like I know what kind of story I'm in for here.
Mhm.
I feel like I want to know. Um, I feel like I want to know why. Like, what is she going to run into? I think,
Yeah.
and Sarah, is it an inciting event, or maybe we're saying that her abandoning her privileged life is the inciting event,
It sounds
or
like
maybe
it.
we need to know what made her decide to abandon it. I don't know. What do you think?
I wanted to know the dangers. So to me,
Mm,
the story starts when she leaves, and I don't think you need to talk more about societal roadblocks. I think that's important because like now a 19-year-old girl could be I mean, she would be legally independent. Um, so I don't need to know more about the roadblocks, but I'd love to know about the dangers, and that's going to set the tone for the story. So, is she running afoul of prohibition? Something? Is she running afoul of? I think if we do that, then it'll also help establish her goal as well, because
there
this
you
is
go.
how these dangers affect her desire for
Yes.
autonomy.
Yes, Sarah, you hit the nail on the head because the juxtaposition is privileged teenage girl
Hmm.
versus dangers of jazz age New York City.
Right,
And
a city
since
that'll eat
I
her
got
up.
I got privileged teenage girl, but I didn't fully understand what those dangers were. So
Yep.
so spell those out. Spell out two or three of those for us. And I think that juxtaposition will come through and people will be like, "Oh, goodness, how will she ever do that?"
Yep. Absolutely. Okay, we have another one that is in two parts. So I'm going to read the first part and then post the second. So, in the bowels of the New York City subway, a gawky 13-year-old basketball hopeful discovers a homeless woman wearing her mother's shoes.
And then joins an underground network of skilled outcasts fighting the ruthless executives who took her mother captive. Okay. Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, this has got all of the David versus Goliath kind of
Mhm.
power struggles in it. You even included a save the cat moment, it sounds like. And save the cat moment is just when your protagonist um does something that they don't have to do to protect someone who is weaker than them. So
Mhm.
when your main character encounters this homeless person, that creates instant empathy for your protagonist. So and that's something we hadn't mentioned before, but I think that's a
Yeah.
really good point. You did a great job with that. You know, I I I like the underground network of skilled outcasts. Um, I'm not sure why the ruthless executives took her mother captive. Like that feels Um, that took me out of it just a little bit, but I don't know, Sarah, what do you think?
So Wendy, I remember reading these first pages and they're fabulous. So I remember the first pages. She's coming off the subway. She sees a homeless woman wearing her mom's shoes. Her mom's been missing, so she's trying to find her mom. I think in the log line, it's not clear the connection between the homeless woman wearing her mother's shoes and why she's joining the underground gang. So as much as I hate to say it, you may actually want to cut the bit about the reduce homeless woman's shoes to a clue that her mother is underground, because to me it's fascinating the sort of labyrinths we have underground. I have a friend who spent time in the underground tunnels under Paris. So if that's where some of this is happening, you may want to concentrate less on the specificity of the clue and just take us right to this clue is pointing her towards her mom being part of this, or captured by someone in this underground. So I think for me, it was I wasn't able to tell. If I hadn't read this, I wouldn't have understood the connection between the homeless woman wearing her mother's shoes and underground network of skilled outcasts. Although I don't know, sorry, I assumed this was underground, like literally versus figuratively. But I think, sorry, it's because I read the pages. But anyway, that sort of connection between she sees these shoes and she has a clue that will help her find her mother. And I don't think that's clear in the log line yet.
Yeah, and I'll jump back in here because so I start to see the juxtaposition in each of these as we build it, but it really is your underground network of skilled outcasts versus ruthless executives. And she is going to become somehow, embedded in this underground network. So I feel like maybe you could even tighten it to that. And then it reminds me of, and again, this is an old movie. It reminds me of Hackers, where you've got the plucky, outcasts who are, sense something is wrong in the state of the world, and they're going to go up against the well-funded, high-tech everybody to make things right. And when you tell that kind of story, like, oh, I'm all in for it. So the elements are there. Sarah's read your pages and thinks it's awesome. So I think we can tighten this log line to really focus on the good guys versus bad guys. And the good guys are the underfunded, plucky, will do anything to get after it, especially when you describe the stakes as well.
Love it. Love it. All right. We've got another 2-part. So I'm actually going to post the first part and read the second. So, okay, Fred, take it away and I'll finish up here.
All right. After making a mistake worthy of execution, personal gardener to King Louis, the 16th. No, the 14th. Aristide Delacroix finds himself banished into the gardens of Versailles, where he must fight to survive as the labyrinth of his own design endeavors to consume him. Ooh, okay. So I stumbled a bit in the reading of that, and that's probably because I just didn't do good in history classes. But there is a really strong juxtaposition here. So I love how it ends. He must fight to survive the labyrinth he created. Sorry, labyrinth. And yeah, and I feel like maybe the very beginning part of this, the mistake worthy of execution, I don't know that we necessarily need to know that, but personal gardener to the king finds himself banished into the gardens where he must fight to survive. Like, I feel like the pieces are there. You can tighten this. You can tighten this a good bit.
I don't think we need his name. Like, unless you're setting this up to be his, like, I don't think you need the name in the log line, and you can tighten it to, I like them making a mistake worthy of execution, but if it's after making a mistake worthy of execution, personal gardener to King Louis XIV is banished to the gardens of Versailles, where he must survive the labyrinth of his own design as the labyrinth of his own design endeavors to consume him. So I think you can cut almost up to 10 words in this, and it's just going to go straight. Like, I like it.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Fig.
What's up, Mr. Fig? After being stranded on a beach during a final testing group unity, Nico Unicorn must overcome his magical weakness to cross the ocean before time runs out, and he keeps his class from graduating. Okay, so this is clearly, and I've read a lot of these pages. So this is clearly a younger fiction story, and I love Nico Unicorn. And Mr. Fig and I, we've had good conversations about this. Sarah, do you want to jump in with your gut reaction?
So you have talked with Mr. Fig more about this. Like, I love these pages, but I'm going to let you take it away.
Okay. Yep. So I feel like, maybe during a final testing group unity, that's some specificity that we don't necessarily understand until we get into the book. But I think you could just say, after being stranded on a beach, Nico Unicorn must cross the ocean in order to let's hear, graduate on time, or it's almost like a double negative. In order to keep his class from not graduating. I don't know exactly how to say that. But there's definitely some condensing to be done here. But yeah, just I would say continue to think about this for so many agents, so many editors, and even the readers. If this is like the opening to your jacket flap, they're not going to know what some of these words mean. So they don't necessarily know what a unicorn or what a unity is. They don't necessarily know what a testing group is. But after being stranded on a beach and separated from his group, Nico Unicorn, must overcome his magical weakness and cross the ocean before time runs out. You know what? That's enough, right? That's enough to get the gist of the story.
And I would add, if my guess is in the story, his weakness is specific to crossing the ocean. So if there is a way that you could be specific or about one aspect of his of his weakness in a way that sort of increases tension and shows what he's up against, I think that would be helpful there as well. But yes, definitely a fan of Nico. All right, we have time for a couple more. So again, if we have some folks who've posted too, which I'm happy to do, but we're going to make sure everyone gets a chance to have their first looked at and then circle back if we have time.
Okay. When someone murders a judge at a beauty pageant, contestant KJ Cooper and reporter Rocky Sachs must uncover a sex trafficking ring that seduces young women willing to do anything to wear the crown. Bum, bum, bum. All right, I got the feels on that one. Yep. I think you've done, like, I love that phrase at the end. Willing to do anything to wear the crown. Like that's a great way to kind of describe the goal and the motivation of each and every one of these characters. I'm curious. I'm curious about maybe how this, how they seduce young women. Like, I feel like there's a specific detail, a little bit of specificity that could go there. So when someone murders a judge at a beauty pageant, a contestant must team up with a reporter to uncover the and then I'm drawing a blank, to uncover the dastardly, I don't know. I mean, I feel like sex trafficking ring works, but maybe it's just, and maybe that's all that you need. Uncover the sex trafficking ring that seduces young women willing to do anything for the crown.
Maybe a point person for that, I think, because sex trafficking is I mean, it's horrifying, but if there's a point person for that, so to uncover or to expose the other officials who use something like that. I think because sex trafficking ring is very nebulous, and so if we can have an idea of if this ring involves, and I imagine it would, involves law enforcement or people in power, if you can list one of that, then that sort of ups the tension in my mind. And I also had a question about, and I think Fred supplied this unintentionally, about, how the contestant and the reporter end up together. So even if you talk about, Fred said teams up, I think just that kind of, because otherwise I wasn't sure how these two people ended up together. But if you literally use the thing team up, and maybe expose might be a different word, because you're not just trying to find it, but you're trying to expose it so that it can't do it again. But yeah, that final phrase, willing to do anything to wear the crown, is killer. So, and I think I'm being picky because this is really good. It's just you're wanting to sort of edge it over that last bit.
Yeah. And Sarah, I 100% agree with you. You hit the nail on the head there. If they are exposing the leader of a sex trafficking ring,
yes,
or exposing the seedy town mayor who runs the sex trafficking ring, or whatever it is, now it's personal. And when you make it personal, and you give me that antagonist, again, I'm a dad. Like, if my daughter was in a beauty pageant and this, like, I found out that this was going on, I'm not going after a sex trafficking ring. I'm going after the person who's in charge of it. So,
right.
yeah, if you can make that more specific, you will hook us more emotionally.
Yep. Agreed. Okay. I have one from Catherine J, who said she wrote this on the fly, and this was her first time writing a log line. So be gentle. We're going to start this off, and then I'm going to say one more after Catherine J. Okay.
All right. When firefighter Jacob Taylor is disfigured in a warehouse fire, he thinks no woman will ever look at him again until he meets his physical therapist, Emily Woods. But her heart has scars of its own.
Wait a sec. And we have more.
And when his pride brushes up against her grief, their love could burn to the ground. Ooh, okay. I like, yeah. This has those great juxtaposition of characters. Great, it hits kind of the romance vibes that you're looking for. And so this is also a good one, because we've talked about how you need to juxtapose your characters. So, guy just, like, firefighter disfigured. So we know that he's got the heroic personality. We know that he's probably sacrificed himself in some way, or has been, he has a sense of duty. And I feel like there's room to take that character archetype and juxtapose it just a little bit more against this physical therapist. Because all we know right now is, when you say she has scars of her own, I feel like you could use that. You can use that moment to amplify the contrast between them. And when you can amplify that contrast between them, that's going to make us go, oh, how are those two ever going to end up together?
And part of me also wanted, and again, I think this is good. I wanted a little bit more about Jacob, just in the sense that I feel like, and tropes, I'm saying this because tropes are not a bad thing in a romance. As a matter of fact, they're a defining feature, and people literally describe romance novels by tropes. So trope is different in romance than it might be in any other sort of genre. But I feel like within the trope, if you're dealing with a disfigured hero, I am going to expect them to have sort of withdraw from the world, and this sort of like Beauty and the Beast, whatever. So if you can add another detail about Jacob that surprises me a little bit, that is just a finger outside of that trope, I think that will also, again, a twist on the trope, perhaps. I think that will add to it. But I'm loving, like, the fire metaphors and things like that. I think that's really strong. Yeah. All right, let's do this one.
Okay. Oh boy. Orphan Chihiro wants to be cherished more than anything. Her neglectful caregiver leaves her in squalor. An interested village adult offers adoption. World War II brings a third option for survival. Okay, so this has got all, like, I see all of the building blocks here. And I feel like you can, this can be tightened, like, this can absolutely be tightened into a single sentence for the purposes of using it as a log line. Um, so and again, maybe when you say you're Chihiro, orphan, wants to be cherished more than anything. I feel like that's almost an implied that's an implied sort of goal for
Mhm.
and for someone in that position. So um, let's see here. Um, when an orphan when her neglectful caregiver leaves an orphan in squalor, an interested village adult offers to adopt her in the midst of World War II. So I think World War II is your framing for the whole thing,
Mm.
because that tells me so much about what I need to know about the world, about the characters, about the timeline. But then you can just kind of, like one of my favorite recent movies was a Godzilla movie that was set. It was World War II, wasn't it?
Mhm.
And it
Yep, he
was
was the
literally like
kamikaze.
all of the framing is World War II. Everything has those elements to it. And then we're gonna have a Godzilla story that's set up inside that. This feels like it has that same opportunity, that same power. Everything is framed by what's going on in World War II. And here's this little story, or it's not a little story, but here's this thing that when you compare it to World War II feels like a small story, but it can be so powerful. So I feel like the elements are here, and I feel like you can tighten this up. Just use World War II as the framing. In the midst of World War II, this orphan is offered adoption, or so the pieces are there. You can tighten it up.
I'm gonna add one other thing too, because if Chihiro is your main character, everything you're describing is happening to her. And so your log line right now isn't showing a ton of autonomy or
Agency.
agency. There we go. Sorry. It's late at night, or late for me to be smart. I would love if you could be a little more specific. And again, in real life, a child in a village in the middle of World War II is going to have very little agency. But if there are ways that you can hint at how she is being her own person, I think that would be really powerful. Oh my gosh, what was the Newbery Award? A Single Shard. About a boy in Korea in, oh my gosh, centuries ago. But again, similar situation, but you're seeing how this boy is working to change his future. So I think, and I'm confident it's in this story, but if you can hint at her agency in this log line as well, that way it will not seem like this is a story that's just happening to her. Fred, do you have 5 more minutes? Because we don't have too many more log lines, and I think we can get
Yeah,
through everyone's
absolutely.
everyone's first one if we're good.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's do it.
Okay.
Okay. When National Guard troops arrive at a self-sufficient prison in a post-apocalyptic 2041 Illinois, demanding to see the prison's warden, Ishmael Brown, who prefers the title Abbot of the Brotherhood, as the inmates refer to themselves, and a former inmate himself, he must decide how to respond to the demands of the autocratic mayor of Peoria in order to maintain the Brotherhood's democratic
Sorry.
self-rule before the mayor orders the National Guard troops to take control of the prison. Bum, bum, bum. Okay.
Mhm.
So, James, the elements are all here, 100%. Your character, your inciting incident, what's at stake, and you can. I challenge you. You can tighten this by half easily. So, I feel like some of the details, like the names that you've given us, the location. I do think post-apocalyptic 2024 Illinois, like, is important, and
Yep.
I'm gonna, if you'll bear with me, I'm gonna stumble through this because I think we can even do this live. So, um, let's see here. In post-apocalyptic 2024 Illinois, National Guard troops uh, arrive at Ishmael Brown's self-sufficient prison, and he must decide how to respond in order to maintain the Brotherhood's democratic It's not quite there. But like I said, the pieces are there.
That's
I
so
think
good.
you've given way more detail than is needed. Your juxtaposition though is going to be the key thing here. So it's a former inmate who now runs a uh, a self-sufficient prison community versus the imperialist government who wants to take over. Like that's your juxtaposition. And when you can frame it that way, like we get it. We're all in.
Well, and when the corruption is outside the prison, I mean, I'm here for that.
Right.
So if you have a former prisoner running a democratic prison and it's the people on the outside in this post-apocalyptic world that are trying to take it apart, yeah, I'm here
Yeah,
for it.
and that's a clever, James. That's a really clever approach to it as well. So, because we all like it when a story is flipped on its head, and you've done a really good job with your you baked it into the concept because it's a former prisoner who is now sort of this, and I'm seeing them in my mind as this peaceful leader of this utopian prison society. It makes no sense, but I'm like,
Yeah.
or it does make sense, but it makes sense in a completely unexpected way, and that makes this a really strong concept. So make sure you figure out how to juxtapose that, and I'll say utopian, democratically run prison society versus the National Guard, how bad are they? Let us know how bad this government, these guards are.
Okay. I'm going to circle back to one more. So we have this.
Yes. All right. 3 college roommates wrongly implicated in bombing the ROTC building and kicked out of school end up in Vietnam together, attempting to survive the horrors of war by creating a clandestine POW resort, which brings the conflict to a standstill. Okay. So,
Yep.
yeah, I don't feel like this is like almost alternative history, maybe, or
Got MASH vibes.
maybe a little bit of MASH vibes. So
Oh, Korea though.
I think it's gonna be
Yeah.
funny. Or yeah, I don't know. Sarah, can you jump in on this one?
Sorry, I'm trying to go back to the first one so I
Yep.
can see it. So in my mind, we're looking at, okay. I'm going to go back to the first part. The way it's reading to me, so I liked this. So we've got essentially 3 guys who you have the ROTC building that's bombed, and now all of a sudden they're in Vietnam. It feels almost like satire to me. So this isn't something that, based on the tone of this, I'm here for it. And this satire may be too strong a word, but you literally have people who are trying to sort of get through this craziness and this trauma by this sort of Black humor. And so to me, it works. And I did like the detail about wrongly implicated in bombing the ROTC building.
Although I feel like that's your inciting incident building block, right? So
Yeah.
and it's a good building block. But for at least one version of this, I think you could try it without that particular building block. So 3 college roommates end up in Vietnam together and attempt to survive the horrors of war by creating a POW resort.
Except I need some of the misadventures that got them there. Like, I feel like if you're kicked out of school for running like a cheating ring, that's very different than blowing a building up or, being implicated in blowing a building up. But yeah, I do see how you're saying you can tighten it. And I think you could even say wrongly implicated in bombing the ROTC building end up in Vietnam together.
Yeah.
Like you can cut some of that, but I do like some sort of detail about why they were kicked out.
Fine, Sarah, have it your way.
Fred, we'll have to discuss this later. Okay. All right. So I think we have gotten through it. Any questions that you have? And if you have any other questions that you want to ask, I'm going to sort of flip ahead through the slides and then give you a place where we can get names and emails for folks who are interested in that. So any questions? Any thoughts? Guys, these
And
were
while we're waiting to
good.
see if there's any questions, I'm just gonna give a quick pitch for our community over at RC1. Or
Yeah.
Sarah, are you gonna do that?
Well, I was going to start, but let me go ahead really quick. So
Oh, yeah,
here's what
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
going to do. I'm going to end up. So right here, this is the form. So back history, I'm going to keep it short. We have a friend who does a whole bunch of webinars and said the worst part of these webinars is figuring out how to do the giveaway because people fight. So here is a Google form. We will really quickly collect emails and names. We're not going to try and like market you with stuff. This is just the easiest way for us to have you entered in the drawing. So while you are giving us your names, we're going to tell you really quick about the prize that you're going to be winning. So RC1 Pro membership essentially came because Fred and I took 10, 15 years, 10 years a piece, 8 to 10 years a piece, trying to figure out what we needed to get our books published. So we kind of built RC1 as a way to provide what we didn't. So it was a combination of feedback from community, it was feedback from industry professionals, it was education that we need. And so all of that, and then man, just direct contact with publishing professionals. So kind of want to show you a little bit about what we've got. And I'm hitting the wrong thing. So our folks who win this, they will get access to our pro forum. So this is the place where you can give feedback. You will also see that we have places, as we will next week, where our pro members are going to be able to swap feedback, post their work, and our top finalists will be able to get feedback from agents. And this is honestly one of the top things that we've got. We have, these are some of the agents that we've had. The center agent here will be one that we've had before. And then Fred, I'm going to let you talk about this part because this is one of my favorite parts of our
Yeah, so we're nerds. So we kind of built like this feedback forum during the pandemic, and it was just a place for our writer friends to swap feedback. So this is free. You can sign up for our feedback forum for free, and all you do is you swap feedback with other writers who are posting their chapters one chapter at a time. And so we kind of built a system that aggregates all that feedback and shows you kind of how close your story is based on the overall community response to being ready to send out on submission. So like it measures how many people give it a 5-star, how many people give it a 4-star, et cetera, et cetera. So if you end up with 90% 5-star reviews, you know that this chapter is good to go. You know that like this is probably something that editors and agents are going to love.
Mm-hmm.
And then if it's getting less than that, then all of a sudden maybe you need to revise it. And so that's really kind of like this free feedback forum that we built we built for our friends during the pandemic, and now we've got like 4,000 writers on it or something like that. So come join us there. We've got lots of other stuff going on at RC1. We'd love to have you as a part of our community.
Yeah. And I think for us, both Fred and I hit the point where we were good and we were trying how to figure out how to be next level good. And one of the things I like about these metrics is that we have so many good writers on our forums, but when you start hitting 80s and 90s, then you're realizing that your work is standing out to your peers in really cool ways. And so that was awesome for us. Another thing, if you're a pro, I'm going to go back real quick. Sorry. Nope. Okay. We provide modules from concept to query. So if you're wanting education, we can do this. These are 3 of the 10 modules that we offer. This is all of the stuff that's in just the first module. There's Fred talking to an industry professional about ideation. Anything else you want to add, Fred?
Yeah, I mean, again, this was us trying to figure out, hey, what do our writer friends need when they are, trying to start from zero to, to a published book. So we basically designed an entire curriculum, hired some of the best writing coaches on planet Earth to help us build a soup to nuts novel writing curriculum. We interviewed all these industry professionals. We recorded everything. We made worksheets for everything. So if you enjoyed like what we did tonight, that's just the tiniest taste of what's available at Ready Chapter 1. So we built all of this with the only intention of how do we help more writers get published, and that's the goal of our company. That's the goal of everything we do at RC1, and we'll even be bringing on. We haven't announced it yet, but we're going to do like an agent summit coming up soon. So if you're on our mailing list, you're going to get information about this agent summit where we're bringing in all these different agents, and we're just going to do a day of matchmaking and critiques. So if that's your passion, if that's your vision, is to take what the kind of stuff we're working on tonight and push towards a publishing opportunity, then please just pay attention to the emails as they come through, because you'll get info on what's coming up.
Yeah. And I'm excited about this because it'll include feedback both on your pitch and your pages. All right. Last call. Anybody else want their name in there? Go ahead and fill it in. And I'm going to do a drawing from this. And then we will see. And so anyway, pro membership is normally $129 for a full year. And I don't see anything else popping up. So according to my random number generator, Becky Robbins, you're our winner. Yeah. So thank you, Becky Robbins, for being part of this. Super happy to have you. And the other thing I'll say is that if anybody here decided that you wanted, and Catherine J., I see your question. I'll answer that in just a sec. If you decide that you would like this, we've got a coupon for you. So if you want to go ahead and just get the annual membership, you have, we have this. You can go to our, nope, I can't do that. Give me a moment. I'll give you a link. You can go there and you'll get $30 off. So you can have the entire annual membership for just $99. And I'll email everybody. Oh my goodness. John, I can't. So the code will be, if I could spell, wouldn't that be so much better?
We're really good at writing and we're terrible at selling stuff.
I know, right? That's probably why we're pretty decent at writing. And then folks, that's your coupon, and that coupon will be good for 24 hours. So if you were like me, you are cheap and you don't spend money right away. So if you need time to think about it, there you go. Here's a link.
Can we send that out by email just so everybody's got the link?
I can send it out to everybody who was there.
Okay.
Yeah, along with the website. And then I really quickly want to circle back to Catherine J. So Catherine was asking, does a log line strictly have to be just one line? I'm asking again because most romances have two main characters. Is it okay for them to each have their own sentence? So here's my thing. Like, log line to a certain extent is it's a construct. I think the help with a log line is that you're wanting to be able to say, let's say one breath, what your story is about. And of course you can mention more than one person with it. I think the goal is just to be able to say it quickly and succinctly, and make sure that you understand your story well enough and understand the important parts of it well enough that you can speak about it quickly. I don't know that there would be any, if you have a killer 2 sentences, that there would be any editor or agent or reader who would be like, yeah, that was 2 sentences. That's a pass for me. So I don't think you want to get hung up on it. I just think it's helpful to see if you can do it. I mean, I would be interested to know if you could get, both characters into a single sentence, but I wouldn't tie myself in knots about it either. Fred, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I'll say, Catherine, that the boy meets girl sort of vibe of romance is really like that. Almost feels like your opportunity for juxtaposition in a lot of romance. So it's this kind of boy meets this kind of girl, or this kind of girl meets this kind of girl, or this kind of boy meets this kind of boy. However you're kind of juxtaposing it, like that feels like your key opportunity to just demonstrate what we're gonna love about it. So I don't know. Feel free to email email us about this specific question. If you've got it as a 2-sentence and you want to email team@readychapter1.com, and we'll give you some feedback.
Absolutely. All right, folks, any other questions? Again, it has been so fun to read your log lines. Becky, I'll email you and get that to you quickly. And if y'all want to use the coupon code, you can have the annual membership and be part of Sarah's First Pages Challenge next week. Fred, anything else?
No, that's it. You guys gave some awesome log lines tonight. I was really, really impressed with what I heard tonight. So I'm excited for all of you. And there's, this is the greatest industry. Like, I love publishing more than anything else in the world. So I am so excited to have just more writers, more writer friends, more writers in our network. And we're going to do everything in our power to help smooth that journey for you.
All right. Y'all take care. We'll see you next time.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Bye.